What's going on, YouTube? Now, Ford SUVs come in pretty much any size you can think of at this point, starting with the super small EcoSport and ending with this monstrous Expedition Max. This was just redesigned last year, but for 2019, Ford has added some new standard features. Of course, we do want to take a second to thank our friends at Jack Kane Ford for giving us access to this nearly $80,000 Expedition. And if you're in the market for any new Ford, be sure to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out one of the largest vehicles money can buy. So like always, we'll start off with the exterior styling, which obviously hasn't changed since its redesign last year. It has a large masculine front design, with either this simple chrome bar grille on the XLT and Limited, a fancier mesh grille on the Platinum, or, new for 2019, the Limited Stealth package will black it all out. Regardless though, the chrome piece actually integrates into the headlight unit, which neatly isolates the LED turn signal from the headlights themselves. On this 302A Limited and the Platinum, they are fully LED, while the lower models will have halogen lights instead. Down below, all models will come with fog lights, but they are LED only on the models with LED headlights. Now checking out the side, this is where you can really tell just how massive this thing is, especially if you choose the Max version. Normally, it's going to measure in at 210 inches long for the standard wheelbase, but this Max adds another 12 to that. And then as far as the design, obviously it is meant to be imposing, so the squared off look carries into the rear as well. The elements are simple but classy, with a chrome bar across the back and nice LED taillights on the Limited and up. The exhaust pipe is always hidden, and there is a full-size spare tire underneath. And since we're already down here, I'll mention the towing. It starts out at a modest 6,600 pounds, but the optional heavy-duty tow package would increase it to a currently class-leading 9,000 pounds. But overall, Ford has excelled at the very difficult task of making something this big look handsome. Now as far as the wheels, there have always been a lot of options, and for 2019, there are even more. We've got the highest end option, the 22-inch polished alloys that are optional here on the Limited and standard on the Platinum. Otherwise, the Limited will have 20-inch bright machined alloys, or the new blacked out 22s that come courtesy of the Stealth package. Finally, on your XLT, you have 3 available wheels. Coming back to the mirrors, they are always at least body colored and heated, with the Limited adding power folding and auto dimming abilities, and then the Platinum adding satin mirror caps. Additionally, the vast majority of models come standard with blind spot monitoring. But as far as all the other safety systems, the Expedition has not yet followed suit with the Edge by making them standard equipment. So, for now at least, pre-collision assist with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control with stop and go, and auto high beam headlights are standard on Platinum only. They can still be added via the technology package on XLT 202A and Limited 302A. Just be aware that some of the rivals do include these things standard. The last thing to look at is the fuel tank. The Max comes in with a larger 28.3 gallon tank, which gives it impressive fuel ranges of 538 and 509 miles with rear and 4-wheel drive respectively. And it does run on regular unleaded fuel. Well, that's it for the exterior. So now let's go ahead and check out the cavernous cabin. So as you would expect for something as expensive as this, Ford's intelligent entry system is standard equipment across all Expeditions. However, if you go for the base XLT, you will do without the remote start system. Of course, getting inside the vehicle is very simple. You just have to reach behind the handle. And when you do, you will also see the power mirrors deploy out on the limited trim and up, as well as the power running boards. But anyways, checking out the cabin of the 2019 Ford Expedition. As you can see, the new modern and premium design that came out last year pretty much carries over for 2019. Now, as far as your colors and materials, XLT and Limited get the choice between this ebony or a color called medium stone. And then if you go for the platinum, you got the same ebony, or you have the optional ceramic color. And then for your materials, XLT comes standard with cloth, and then both the other trims do come standard with leather. Now, turning over here to your door trim, it is very nice, as you would expect. We've got a leather material across this whole entire armrest, as well as some faux wood above that. And then even this top part is soft touch with a nice color contrast stitching. Of course, all 4 of your windows are one-touch automatic, and you do also have 3-person memory seating on the Limited and the Platinum. Coming down to your seat here, all models start off with a 6-way power seat, and then going for the Limited or the Platinum gets you this 10-way power seat, but only the Platinum will come with massaging functions. And then, like I was saying, this is real leather. It definitely feels very nice. As you can see, it has a very nice design with different types of stitching as well as perforation. Now, with these huge power running boards, getting in is super easy. You just step up both your feet, and then you've got a driver's side assist grip as well. So like I already said, with the redesign last year, materials took a big step up, and that does continue for 2019. So across all of your upper dash, you've got a nice soft touch plastic with some more of that color contrast stitching. And then coming down to this middle portion, you've got a leatherette material. As far as what you have in the middle here, you've got generous use of that faux wood trim, as well as a nice piece of leatherette that trims all through here for your knee to rest against. And overall, everything fits together very well. It definitely looks good and feels good. Now, across all models, you do have standard push button start. When you press it, you'll notice one of the 2019 changes, and that's this display. Now, the screen itself is not new, however, it's now standard across all the trim levels, even the base XLT. Now, the cabin does have some common characteristics to the F-150, and these gauges are one of them. Now, on your upper end trims, this is the setup you'll get, and you've got a large 7-inch multi-function display in the middle of 2 analog gauges. Now, this is a very nice setup. As you can see, you've got a lot of different things, a lot of information on here, including things for like off-road, different settings for all your safety systems. You also got some custom trailer data that you can put in. So overall, it's really reconfigurable, and there's a lot of information in there. Now, coming back to the steering wheel, of course, you do have electric power assisted steering, and all models do have a standard leather wrap steering wheel. Now, as far as the buttons, these are for your multi-function display, your adaptive cruise control. You got your traditional audio controls and voice controls over here. Up here, you do have rain sensing wipers if you have one of the models with the safety system packages. And then on the Limited and Platinum, you will find power adjusting steering wheel that is also heated. And then you'll also find power adjusting pedals to go along with that. But anyways, the reason why you buy a huge Expedition is for the storage, and this definitely does not disappoint. So starting out with your center console here, it's absolutely massive. It's probably the biggest one I've ever seen on any vehicle. As you can see, it's super deep. You do have a little pad down here at the bottom, and there is also a 12-volt outlet. Up in front of that, you've got some cover cup holders as well as another storage area. And inside of this one, you've got a wireless phone charging pad on all but the XLT, or you can option it on to the XLT. And then you've also got 2 charging USB ports. Now, one of the ways that Ford has been able to provide so much space in this Expedition is because they've adopted an electronic shifter. Now, this is one of these simpler ones to use. All you gotta do is twist over for drive. Then you can press this M in the middle to go into a manual mode. However, there are not any paddle shifters on the wheel. Click over to go into reverse. As you can see, we actually have the 360-degree camera system. This is standard on the Platinum only. However, you can get it on the limited trim through the 302A package. Of course, you got both your traditional view as well as your 360 view. You can also zoom in, and then using this button up here, you can cycle through some different views. Never park, you'll just twist back over to the P. Back behind the shifter, these are the buttons that control your manual shifting. Then you do also have your drive mode controller. So as you can see, we can cycle through 5 different modes. Excuse me, there's more modes than that. We've got a sport, trailering, mud, sand, grass, and normal. So there's a lot of different modes you can choose between. And then here's your auto parking abilities, as well as your parking sensor off button. Now moving on up here to our climate controls. This is another area of change for 2019. Dual zone automatic climate control has been completely eliminated, so no matter what trim you get, you're always going to get this 3-zone automatic climate control. Of course, controlling things is very simple. You got 2 knobs right here. You got your fan speeds located here and your zones right here, so you don't have to go up into the screen for anything. But if you do want to use the screen, you can still do that. You will also notice 3-stage ventilated and 3-stage heated seats. Both of those features are standard on the Limited and the Platinum. And now that brings us up here to our audio system. Now, Ford does include the upgraded sound system on all but the XLT, and it is a 12-speaker Bang & Olufsen premium sound system. So let's go ahead and take a sample. Sound quality of this system is fantastic. But anyways, that now brings us up here to our Sync 3 system. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at it. Checking out the Sync 3 system, this is the same system that we've seen in Fords for several years now. It's very simple to use. You've got a home screen, and then you have some shortcut buttons lining along the bottom. And you can click into any of these sections to expand them. So first we'll go into audio. This is through our standard Bluetooth, and we can play and pause it straight from here, as well as go up here and change the sources out. You also have your phone. You can click into your contacts to see all of those, which have automatically synced over from your smartphone. And you do also have text messages as well. Now this specific model has navigation integrated into the system. It comes on the 301A package and up on the Limited. However, even if you have one of the lower trims, you will still have standard Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, thanks to the fact that you now have the standard 8-inch display on all models. But anyways, that's more or less the main features of the Sync 3 system. However, we do have a dedicated tech help video available for those of you who want to learn more. A link to that is provided in the video description. Now up above the screen, you've got a few more buttons. You got your hill descent control, traction control defeat, lane keeping assist, your auto start stop defeat button, as well as that camera button I already pushed. And then I did fail to mention you've got some storage up here on the top as well. Now, most models will come with this auto dimming mirror, as well as the HomeLink universal remotes right here on the visor. One of the most impressive features is this really large power panoramic moonroof. As you can see, it goes all the way back behind the second row. This is an option across all the trim levels, even the Platinum. But anyways, it's hard not to be impressed by the interior of this Expedition. Not only is it a huge and spacious space, but it's also extremely luxurious and definitely satisfies the needs of even the largest family. So now I'll go ahead and hand it off to Mason, who will check out the very important rear areas of the vehicle.
So checking out the second row of the 2019 Expedition Max, you're going to find a huge amount of space, as you would expect. You'll find 43 inches of rear legroom and 40 inches of rear headroom, which for comparison's sake is larger than the Tahoe and Suburban. Now turning over here to the door trim, it is really nicely appointed, just like the front. So you do have a leather wrapping across most of it, some silver trim, and some more faux wood. Now your window is fully automatic, and below that you do have plenty of door storage. Now turning over to the seats themselves, as you can tell, we do have the captain's chairs on this model, which is a $795 option on all trims. Now as you can see, the seat itself is a really nice design, and it is perforated leather. Getting in is super easy with these nice running boards. Now here in the center area, you are going to find a ton of features. So you will find some cup holders up on the top, and down below that you will find all of your climate controls. So the rear area does have its own climate controls. So you have your fan speeds, your temperature adjustment, as well as your zones. Now down below that you will also notice that you have 2-stage heated rear seats, which is standard on the Limited and Platinum trims. Now off to the side you will find 2 charging USB ports here, as well as a household style outlet. And further below that, you will even find another 12-volt power outlet and a storage area. Now, like I mentioned, we do have the captain's chairs, which gives us these nice armrests. And above that, we do have this awesome panoramic moonroof. I definitely recommend going for this option. It really helps air out the cabin back here, and it's already a very spacious spot. Now, up here on the roof here, we have the vent, as well as a coat hook and LED lighting. Now as far as rear legroom is concerned, like I mentioned, this is bigger than the Tahoe and Suburban. So behind, this is actually with the seat scooted all the way back. I still have probably 5 or 6 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up under the seat, so you definitely will not have any space issues back here. But overall, I'm an extremely big fan of this Expedition's rear seat. This is an absolutely amazing place to spend time. There's tons of space and literally every feature you could ever want. Now getting into the third row is super easy. All you have to do is look at this little lever, pull it forward, and give it a slide. And it does slide right out of the way, or of course you could just walk in between the seats. Now checking out the third row, you will notice that's an absolutely massive amount of space here in the Expedition Max. Its technical rating is 41 inches of rear legroom and 37 inches of rear headroom, which is probably, I think it might be the biggest third row in any car that we've reviewed ever. So let's go ahead and check it out for an adult. So once you sit back here, definitely I was super impressed with it last year, and I'm still super impressed. This is an awesome place to spend time. I have probably 2 inches of rear leg room with this seat scooted all the way back, which is absolutely fantastic. And even better than that is that I have thigh support, so this is really no less comfortable than the second row seat, which is a very impressive thing to have. And turning over here to the side, you do have plenty of features as well. So you have a cup holder, as well as a smart charging USB port, some storage area, and you do even have power adjustment for the third row, which is a really unique feature. So all you have to do is push this, and it will recline and go back and forth. So that's a really nice feature to have. Now, in addition to that, you do have a coat hook, as well as some vents and some lighting. But overall, like I mentioned just a second ago, this is probably the best third row I've ever been in. Like I said, you're really not making much of a sacrifice from the second row, and the second row is an awesome place to spend time too. So this is a really great space for your family. Now, coming around to the tailgate, it is hands-free power on the limited and platinum trims, so just wave your foot under the bumper to open. And of course, inside the Expedition Max's trunk, you're going to find a ton of space here as well. So behind the third row seats, you're going to find 36 cubic feet of space, and if you fold the third row, you're going to find 73 cubic feet, and that expands all the way to 122 cubic feet if you fold all of the seats. Now that is about as big as it gets, so you can't really get much bigger than that. And over here on the side, you do have the controls for that seat folding. So if you want to fold the seats, all you have to do is locate these little buttons and push them. As you can see, I'm folding the right areas here. And everything is done with a quick touch of the button. And as you can see, when you fold all of the seats, it is a pretty flat loading floor here, so you could really fit a ton of stuff. You could probably fit an entire mattress back here. And of course, it is finished nicely. You do have a nice carpeting, and underneath of the floor, you do even have a little bit more storage, which is very impressive. Now, coming over to the passenger seat is that same nice design, and you do have power adjustment as you would expect on this limited trim. Now, in front of the passenger, you do have extremely nice materials with this padded dashboard, padded area above that, and if you push it, it does open up to give you plenty of space, in addition to the already good-sized glove box. Now up top, you do have a sun visor with a mirror and light. It does also detach, and it does also extend. Well guys, that sums up all the rear areas of this Expedition Max. So now let's go ahead and get out on the road and see how it performs out there.
Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain. Now, the Expedition's a little bit different than its main rival, the GM Twins or whatever. They use a V8, and this uses a twin-turbocharged V6. It's 3.5 liters, and it produces a very healthy 375 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. However, if you go for the Platinum trim, they actually bump that power up all the way to 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque, so definitely very powerful. Now, no matter which trim you choose, you're going to be paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission with your choice of rear-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And then in regards to your fuel economy, going for that turbo engine, 10-speed automatic, as well as having the auto start-stop system, does allow this to get pretty good fuel economy for its size, of course. The Max 4x2 is rated at 17 city, 23 highway, 19 combined, and the four-wheel drive version is 16 city, 21 highway, 18 combined. It is worth mentioning, if you go for the standard wheelbase Expedition instead of this Max, you're going to bump that up by 1 mpg combined for both of them. But anyways, now let's go ahead and take this for a quick spin. So first, taking off in the 2019 Expedition, you're definitely going to notice right from the start, this definitely has a lot of grunt to it. If you're concerned about this being a V6 versus a V8, I wouldn't be.
No.
Definitely takes off with authority, and you can tell that it's got a lot of torque.
You know, it definitely pushes you back in your seat. It's a lot quicker than you would think for something this massive.
You can also definitely tell just how comfortable it is. Very smooth riding vehicle. Definitely just coasts down the road, just glides with ease.
Yeah, you can definitely, I mean, this is a very comfort-oriented vehicle. It's supposed to be comfortable for all 3 rows of your family, and this car definitely exceeds like any expectations I had for how comfortable it drives.
And just like in the F-150, the 10-speed automatic is very well behaved. Shifts out super smoothly at different levels of acceleration, you know, just casual as well as under harder acceleration. They do a good job. It doesn't seem confused or anything.
You know, I'm also kind of noticing, you can hear that turbo whine from this turbocharged V6. It has a unique tone to it. You definitely aren't going to mistake it for a V8. But that's not a bad thing, because it has a unique tone to it, and it definitely doesn't sound like wimpy or anything like that.
No, I'm actually satisfied with the sound. You know, this family of engine is used in a lot of different products, including the high-tuned version is in the Navigator and the Expedition, or I mean, excuse me, the Raptor. You know, and so that's this type of sound that you're gonna get. It's not like a V8, but I think it's a cool sound. It's pleasant. Now, for whatever reason, the auto start-stop system is not engaging. I guess it's probably the conditions of what's going on right now. But as far as what I remember last year, it was very smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it actually sounds pretty burly. It's got a deep tone to it. It's not like a whiny little engine.
I'm just really impressed by the power, and it is worth noting that if you get the Platinum trim, you're going to get even more power than this particular model has. So that's something that's even worth considering as you go up the trim levels.
That's right. Now, driving down this relatively small country road, I'd be lying if I said this feels small. But it doesn't feel as big as it could, basically. The steering, it definitely feels plenty responsive. It's not super dead or anything, so I have a good feeling about where I'm placing the wheels and stuff, which is important when you're driving something so big on, you know, a relatively small road. So maneuverable, of course, not too maneuverable because it is absolutely massive, one of the biggest vehicles money can buy. But I don't think if you're used to driving something this big that it's going to bother you or anything like that. But overall, I think the Expedition drives pretty darn well. Of course, this is a big gal, but it's a well-behaved big gal. Like I said, I'm generally not used to driving things this big. Only when we do reviews on large SUVs, of course, what I normally drive is a small sedan. But definitely, if you are used to driving a Tahoe or something, this is very well behaved, and it feels more maneuverable than you would expect for something that's about as long as a school bus. So I really think, if you've got a large family that needs this much space, then I really don't see any reason why the Expedition would disappoint you.
Alrighty, and let's discuss the pricing of this 2019 Expedition here for a minute. Now, if you opt for the Max trim like what we have here, you're going to have 3 different trim levels to pick between. So the base trim level, which is the XLT 4x2, is going to come in at $54,815. If you want to go for the limited trim, which is what we have here, that's going to come in at $65,705. And if you want to go all the way up to the platinum trim, that's going to come in at $76,060. Now, that is worth noting that's about a $400 price increase over last year, and it's also 4x2, so if you want 4-wheel drive, that's going to be an additional charge on top of that. Now, as far as how this particular model is equipped, it's a pretty uniquely equipped vehicle. So this is actually a limited, but basically with all of the options of the platinum. So we have the limited equipment group 302A, which is a $6,440 option, and that includes a vast array of features like the panoramic moonroof and driver's assist package. And then we also have optional white paint for $555, as well as second row bucket seats, or the captain's chairs for $740. Now, finally, when you add in the destination charge of $1,295, this particular model, as equipped, comes in at $77,855. Which definitely is a great value for how big and how capable this car is to haul around everyone in your family. All 3 rows are definitely going to be super comfortable, and it's right in line with that of the Tahoe and Suburban for this class.
Well, guys, if you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the 2019 Ford Expedition Max Limited, please hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.
Mm-hmm.